So, as I says, welcome to the second half. Jumping to conclusions is our topic at this point in time. So, let's do a quick round of intros for anybody who wasn't here in the beginning and doesn't know who the hell they're staring at. I am Travis, I am your host, and I am drinking some Henry McKenna and smoking some autumn evening, a wonderful tobacco blend in this pipe. And then going counterclockwise or clockwise around the area, we'll start with Ed.
Hey, I'm still here. I'm still drinking wine.
And then Kevin.
Joyous salutations of the evening. I'm still consuming strong black coffee to keep myself awake and smoking hand-rolled Golden Virginia tobacco.
Elizabeth.
Virginia never tasted so good. Hi, Elizabeth here. Virginia here. Water, water, water. And I'm treating myself a little Pilsner Urquell to go with my tequila.
And don't forget, you can always find her and her work at picklemanproductions.com.
Thank you very much, sir.
Of course. And then Chris.
I'm Chris, and I am drinking Blackheart Rum and Dr. Pepper.
Oh. Totally different order than last time.
They don't need to know that.
No, they don't. It's So when I say jumping to conclusions, I mean in a couple different ways. Of course, there's always the personal jumping to conclusions, like when the boss or your other half says, we need to talk. We automatically go somewhere in our head. But also, the flipping to the end could also be jumping to conclusions. If you want to see what the conclusion of a book or a movie is, and you go look for those spoilers, so we could talk about that. But I also, as a third kind of thing in there, I want to talk about how our society loves to jump to conclusions. I mean, I can just throw out vote meddling or coronavirus, and we all can immediately know where our society as a whole has jumped to the conclusion on these things.
We're gonna die.
Well, we're rooting for that.
You know what goes really well with coronavirus? Lyme disease.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. I'm here a week. Please try the fish. Don't forget to tip your waitress.
There he is. So, are any one of you like just always jump to conclusions? Elizabeth, you say
I always revert to the 8-year-old, and I always think I'm in trouble, even if it's just a friend or just always, every time. Maybe that's just the comedian in me.
Could be the Catholic in you too. You just always in trouble for something.
I think in our society now, the phrase "we need to talk" just has a negative connotation to it, so people automatically assume, even though it could just be like, "Hey, we need to talk. Let's figure out what we're gonna do later tonight," you know? But like, if you just say, "Hey, we need to talk," with no other explanation or like in a text, that's it. Like, everyone's jumping to the worst fucking idea. Like, those words.
I agree.
Chris, have you ever been married?
No.
A spouse never says, we're going to talk, let's figure out what we're going to do later tonight. Because you can never figure out what the hell you're going to do later tonight as a couple. You can't even figure out what you're going to eat later tonight as a couple. So, nah, that doesn't happen.
What she means is this is your daily test to see if you can remember the list of 25 places you're going to mention that I don't want to eat tonight. Before we go to the Indian again.
The solution to the eating thing, for me, that's worked pretty well, is one of them names 3 places and the other one picks one. And you have to alternate.
I just decide.
Yes, Kev?
My solution is to eat your wife.
That works too.
And do it well.
That's right. We might be having a connection interruption again.
I'm ambiguous.
Go ahead. Keep talking.
I'm ambiguous. I was going to say I'm ambiguous about what I meant by that, and if you think you understood it, you probably jumped to a conclusion.
Hopefully her conclusion if you did it right.
Well.
And it goes either way there. It's
I was thinking like salt, pepper, cider, fries.
So is there a way...
Dipped or undipped?
Well, you can't dip the whole side at once, can you? So, with jumping to conclusions, is there a way to avoid doing this personally?
Sure, just don't care.
Hmm. Hmm. That's valid. Don't give a fuck. That
Mhm.
Yeah.
valid and often, if done correctly, very healthy.
Mhm.
You know, until there is something to actually do that you can modify or change or influence, I don't fucking care.
Mhm. Don't fucking care.
And so, so what about spoilers? Who loves spoilers?
How
Who goes?
about how
Yeah,
about this?
go, Elizabeth.
Sorry.
No.
Once again, back to balance and centering. How about not having an emotional reaction
Mm-hmm.
to everything, or just not having a reaction, just letting things occur, which is a little bit, somewhat like not caring, but
Mm-hmm.
just let it happen.
That's actually a great point. Jumping to a conclusion is a knee-jerk emotional reaction, and though you might not be able to control how you feel at that knee jerk moment, you can choose how you react to your feelings. It takes practice, mind you. But it
Yeah,
also
I'll
took.
let you know how that works out.
Well, already
But
you're
I'm
doing
trying.
better as opposed to, are you talking about me? So, you're already doing great. That face.
Yeah, no, but truly, yeah, it's being in the moment. Just instead of saying something, like, "Here we go," or these preconceived notions,
That's right.
just take your beer, take an extra sip, and then wait for it to.
Extra bottle, extra growler.
Hey.
So, what about you, Chris? I saw you nodding your head earlier.
I mean, I tend to always jump to the no and be like, nope, can't do that. Nope, we shouldn't do that. Yada yada. No, I don't have time for that. And then have to go, no, hold on. Yes, this is things I can do. Like, I don't know why my knee-jerk reaction is to always say just no, but it is something that I am actively working on
Nice.
to be better about and not,
See,
always just go, no, not possible. And then later go, all right, so it actually is possible if we do all of these other things, which I
see,
don't want to do, but we can do to make it work.
see, Chris. I've often, for the most part, felt like you were very much a people pleaser, and you've always worked with me, and you very rarely tell me no. Maybe I don't ask stupid shit. I don't know. I think I do. I try, but maybe I don't.
No, I certainly am, and I think that that fits into that
Mm-hmm.
because in the way that, like, if I say no right away, like it's not possible, it's not something we can do, and then I find a way to do it, there's more gratification in that someone thinks that I have more ability, or like, oh, he must be really good at what he does because he ended up finding a way to do this even though, he said earlier he couldn't do that. There wasn't a way to do that.
Hmm.
I think is the way my brain thinks about it, which is not necessarily a good thing.
All the time.
So, you know.
Sometimes it definitely adds value to go, oh, that's impossible. Scotty did this all the time on Star Trek. Okay?
Sure.
It's so it can work. Let's flip this and make this more fun. Let's talk about other people who jump to conclusions. I mean, we can definitely keep revealing things about ourselves and improving on ourselves. That's great. But let's have some fun and point some fucking fingers right here. Not at each other, hopefully. Damn it, Elizabeth! Why you always point at me? Yeah.
Why do you assume it's you? It's all you.
Comes the fingers pointing right at me. I can see it. So does anybody work with or live with or interact with on a regular basis somebody who always fucking jumps to a conclusion? Hey, Kennedy.
Mike.
Ed?
What up, Kennedy? My ex-wife.
But you don't interact with her anymore. But we could go back.
No, but she was to the point that she was that person. She loved to read, which was a good trait. But every book she bought, she read the last chapter first.
Really?
Oh, man.
Really? See, I purposely avoid spoilers and whatnot. Though I don't know. Do you avoid spoilers in life, or do you try to find out the final answer before you go down that road and explore it?
I don't avoid spoilers in life. But if I find out, I find out. If I don't, I don't. Just
Why did
take
she
it when it
do
comes
it?
to me.
Why did she?
Immature.
She couldn't wait, or
Couldn't wait. Had to know.
But then she read the whole book or watched the whole movie or whatever.
But then read the whole book. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, but it doesn't. It's not the same though.
People who read the last page of a book first will be the first up against the wall when my revolution comes.
By the way, as a writer, I have a workaround for this. I always have an epilogue. And then I always have a wind down after the climax. To actually find the climax, you got to go back like 3 chapters. Yeah.
So it's like a literary cigarette.
Yes, absolutely. Which I found is much more pleasing to your reading audience because they need that cuddle afterwards. They need that, little bit of a clean up than a cuddle. So what about you, Chris? You work with somebody or you know somebody that you hang out with a lot that just automatically assumes, and it might not be the worst, by the way. It might be the best. They assume the best.
I don't think so. Not anyone that jumps out.
You work with drama people. Has to be like all of them, doesn't it?
and our department tries to stay drama free pretty regularly.
That's why you're up in a balcony behind a glass wall.
Yes, where the people can't hear me yell at them for being dumbasses. Who puts their feet up on the stage? Like, this is not your fucking living room.
Nice. I was about to say
It's
directed
also like at an angle up above your head. No. Sorry, I'm done.
I feel like that's. Oh yeah. By the way, yes, Tempe here in chat says you work with my daughter. For goodness sake, Chris. That is the Tempe we were talking to.
We had a lovely conversation today.
Oh, did you? Very good.
Yeah. Getting ready for the Teen Performance Company bringing props in.
Very good. How was Teardown, by the way? Or striking? I'm sorry.
Sound strike today went really, really well. We got everything struck and packed away from the show before lunch. Well, just after lunch. They were doing final checks of everything to make sure that we're returning all of their stuff and keeping all of ours. And then the rest of the afternoon was spent trying to get our system working, which didn't work right the first 3 times we tried. So it was a busy day running around, but the set's all gone. There's nothing left of it. It is a big blank stage with some holes in it that they were still working when I left at like 6:30, 6:45, whatever it was.
One of the joys of going to visit Chris, by the way, is he toured us through the whole place. For the most part, except for the places where, like, some of the actors were still changing or whatever. We couldn't go there, of course. But it was really fun seeing the behind-the-scenes stuff afterwards. Even if I did miss part of it, and then they ridiculed me for, like, the next 3 hours because I didn't see a fucking piano.
It was right there. You can't miss it.
I was looking at something else.
Yes. But the rest of us can't. Like,
you
had to step to the side to get up the stairs.
I don't think you're trying hard enough to miss things, man. You just don't try hard enough. After dealing with some of the dumbasses I've dealt with, I'm good at avoiding certain things. Huge things. That would normally be... I want to talk about this. So the new generation, people like to bitch about the new generation. No matter what generation you are, whether it's when we were kids and they complained about our generation or whatever. Now, is it me, or is there actually a leaning in younger... It might be. In the younger generation, instead of, when they hear, we gotta talk, I wonder if a lot of them think, what did somebody else do wrong now? Instead of, oh, what I do wrong. If they automatically look to blame somebody else instead of holding personal responsibility.
Yeah. They're thinking, oh, I must be getting an award.
Now, do you mean that seriously?
For participation.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
Go on, Elizabeth. Open up on that, and then Chris, take it after her. If you know what I mean. So, do you really think the younger generation, and you can put numbers on it or not, it doesn't actually matter. Do you think they look at the world differently where they don't think they have anything to worry about or fault or blame?
I think that they blame other people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I find it curious that I'm reading in several articles on how this generation is the most consuming generation. And they, always order out, have food brought to the house. They get a new cell phone every year. It's maddening, and I think it's a reaction to point the finger other places rather than thinking about how I can actually make a difference. And it's not about buying bags to go shopping. It's about your thoughts, your behavior, your attitude. You being the change you want the world to do, and not just demanding the world change for you. I think I don't know what's going through people's minds. That's
You're not
from my
like
deal.
jumping to a conclusion there, are you?
Absolutely. A very grandiose one. Hey, I'm on a talk show. They asked me. That's my assumption. I don't know what the hell is going through people's minds.
Well,
I went to a brewery this weekend to meet up with some friends. We had some beers, and people brought their children and little children running around where people are getting drunk. I think that's strange.
Now, Elizabeth is a teacher, so she interacts a lot with the newer generation or generations, plural. Chris, you work around or deal with a lot of the younger generation. What's your thoughts on this?
I would say that, like, this last cast in this show, the majority of them were between 22 and 25, let's say.
Okay.
Maybe 26. So, yeah, they were all pretty young, and I think that they would jump to that, oh, well, it's not me, it's got to be them doing something wrong type of thing. But most of my direct coworkers are not in that age range, so,
No,
it's not something that I really deal with often.
Kevin, you working in the service industry, restaurants and whatnot, you're hiring a lot of younger folks. So maybe you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely there's a leaning towards self-criticism being a dying art form.
Well, the British are going to be pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, tell me about it. It's our favourite national pastime. I think part of it comes from a social lack of consequence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've talked about this theme over and over again, haven't we, in aspects of social media, in all walks of life, that these days people are used to being able to slag each other off on the internet without having to worry about getting a punch in the face for it. And it's an extreme example, but that plays through to now people, they lack a sense of social consequence for their actions.
Oh, that's interesting.
I can be me. I can be mean. I can be ugly. I can be lazy. I can be a consumer, because there is no consequence if I do any of these things. Fuck you. It's my choice. I do whatever I want. What's the worst that can happen? Whereas I think we grew up. You always sound like the older generation harping the same old arguments. Mm-hmm. We went through more hardship. We had to struggle more. We learned the value of these things more. But I do think that there is a genuine trend like that at the moment, that people have stopped looking at their own behavior, and because they don't think they have to. Why do I'm me. I do my own thing, man. I'm keeping it real.
My truth.
Sorry, I hate
My
that phrase.
truth.
What the fuck does that mean? Keeping it, everything around you is real.
No,
It's my truth. It's not the truth. It's my
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah, and can we all have our own truths and still exist well together. Ed, you work security, so when you have problems,
Mhm.
and I don't know if the problems are more from whatever age group when you have to deal with the
Oh,
problem.
absolutely.
What's that?
Usually younger. Usually younger.
And how's that?
Um,
Yeah.
Not so much where I work now, but the last site that I worked on, it was a shipping company, and I was there to make sure the employees weren't stealing.
Uh,
Not to make sure that nothing bad happened to the employees, but to make sure the employees weren't stealing, which was kind of weird for me. I'd never worked in 30 years of working security. That was the first time I was there to protect the people on the outside from the employees versus the other way around. But one of the things that was amazing to me was the "I'll just quit" attitude. Um, and it was over simple, silly shit because somebody looked at them wrong, or the boss told you you need to get your package count up. I'll just quit. Or the boss said, "I don't want you to work that line today. I want you to work this line down here." I'll just quit.
Ed could
Must
be in
be
the
nice
building
to
where I
have that.
work.
It must be nice to have that luxury. But one thing in particular that happened, I caught a kid stealing cell phones. It was my fault. It was the station manager's fault. It was the company's investigator's fault. But it wasn't his fault.
Well, it was your fault they got caught. I'll go with that one. Hold on, I'm replying to here. Let me do this. Let me use that bell. Tempe, that
Oh,
is
Bell.
awesome. Tempe is recovering from surgery that she had 3 weeks ago. Back to writing the next day. That's awesome because if anybody doesn't know, Tempe is a relatively new author. I want to say just a little more than a year at this point in time, and she has just burned out some books. You want to talk about somebody who's inspirational to writers that go, oh, look at that. So I'm thrilled to hear that she gets to go back to what she loves doing and do it. And I'm looking forward to having her on Write Night with us. That's going to be a good time. It's because she is a delight. And I love that new author perspective, which something she pointed out, which may relate to what we're talking about, is she has run into groups of people who are very negative about others in the same creative bracket they're in, as opposed to being supportive, going, "Oh, you're doing this too, awesome. Let's compare notes. Let me learn something. Let me help teach you something, make life easier." No, they're just like, me. And are we seeing that more, where people are? I still find people be helpful, but that could be because I control. Oh, look at. Oh, thank you, Chris. Giving Tiffy that some. Go, Kev, go.
My daughter said something interesting the other day. My daughter's 16. No, Jesus, 17. Anyway, she said to me, when I was a girl, like a younger girl, growing up, all we heard about was things like the Spice Girls, girl power, female empowerment, equal wages, equal right. A strong message about women. She said, but now I'm in my late teens. All my friends want to do all the time is, oh, let's go on Instagram and look at her pictures and talk about how fat she is and how her fashion's poor. They just want to tear each other down all the time. And I thought I remarked on it to Emma at the time. I was like, that's such a sad indictment of society that is literally, we used to get together and play games, go to the pub, get drunk, build forts, do stupid shit, whatever kids do,
And he was 7.
We didn't sit around going, who can we be fucking horrible to today? I'm still doing that shit now.
That's how they.
I might build a blanket fort later. The wife's out.
That's right. But that's how some people find self-worth, because they don't do anything to raise themselves up. They only feel good when other people are below them.
As as a woman, once a girl, I remember them doing that, and I think they still do that. It's just insanity. It's the reason why they call a group of crows a murder.
Yeah, I think we've always had our town gossips and people that flock to the town gossip. I think this is an age-old thing. It's just more visible with social media now. And instead of gathering over the clothesline or at the pub or at the manufacturer line of the warehouse they work in, they can just,
Water cooler.
yeah, yeah, they could do it in their,
I wonder.
uh-huh.
I wonder if that ties to what we were saying a minute ago. You know, that people always have done these things, but you didn't do them in public around other people because you didn't know everyone else was doing it as well. Whereas now with social media, you can go, oh, he's being mean about them and they're saying this. So that's okay. Well, it means I can do that as well now. Whereas I might have kept that to myself or my close group of friends. I'll tell the whole world that I hate this person and I think that's shit, you know.
But I think they're only doing it to get the attention of being popular because they said something that made people look at them and click like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't sit next to someone that was drinking that way, you know, like an angry drunk and just putting people. I don't get it.
I don't get a choice.
Think it just says more about the source than it does the targets, you know.
I agree. See, growing up as a nerd, I was the one who got picked on and torn down. And as I'm older, you know, I can look at it and go, well, obviously they had some issue where they felt, you know, they were stronger in a group and they could do this. And they got the approval of their friends from it, whether it was beating me up or just making fun of D&D or the books that I read or what have you. And now as we're older, we've learned to, you know, water off our back and walk away and not sit next to that angry drunk who doesn't even have a fucking drink.
Don't drink angry, don't cook angry, just don't be angry. I teach the kids at school, I say don't be angry, it gives you wrinkles. And the girls, I'll say, see, you got one right there, see?
I see the ukulele. Did you want to sing a song about it?
Yeah. Just practicing my chords. I mean, I do, and I will for that right now.
Okay, so let's talk about society jumping to conclusions. Let's flip it up to a bigger picture here and kind of zoom out. And, you know, we could pull topics from really any day news. And I think this is largely media driven, our news sources and whatnot, that their headlines give you a big arrow that points at a conclusion. Even if they don't directly point at it themselves, it says, look over there.
Russian collusion.
Which I wouldn't doubt that to actually exist. And I wouldn't doubt that America does it too in other countries. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure we could just point out a dozen different times in the past 10 years we've done it.
Absolutely. Every country tries to interfere with every other country's election. It doesn't make it collusion.
That's true.
Remember, people would stop. It's like bad movies. They'd stop making them. People stopped watching them. So, you know, when people, you know, when it stops selling papers or it stops getting attention, they'll stop being shitty on the internet. Well, maybe not totally.
We can at least separate them. What about you, Chris? What was something you've heard recently that just you went, oh my God, you're really going to go right there? There's like no input in between 0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
I feel like the cast was talking about another cast member who wasn't around the other day that was just like, okay, I understand that she is not the best actor in the cast and that she doesn't want to hang out with you all, but like, clearly this is a reason why. I mean, now, the points they were bringing up were not totally incorrect about them, but, like, you don't need to do that in such a public space while you're drinking in the place that you all work. Like, I get you're drinking in the lobby after the show at the bar, but, like, you don't need to be catty little bitches about things that happened during the show tonight and how, like, so-and-so fucked up. And, like, yeah, they stumbled. They kicked your chair during the dance number, and you had to take a couple of extra steps to, like, get to it for the next scene. Woo. Stupid shit like that I try and avoid.
See, Andrea's dealt with this in the convention circuit, where she doesn't necessarily socialize with the cliquish people, and because of that, she has been ostracized and talked about quite unfairly. Now, some of the points they bring up may or may not be valid, but that doesn't mean it's the way to do things. It's the way to tear somebody down for no positive purpose, I guess.
It's totally because if you're pointing at someone, people don't notice how you're screwing up. So they can hide in that.
That's true. Don't put a fingerprint on that camera. We don't need your face anymore, Smudgy.
Can't tell me you want to be able to look at this closer.
Okay, you're right. I can't tell you that.
I got in trouble at work recently for jumping to a conclusion. We were working on a project together, a group of us, about 4 of us, and an individual was speaking to me, telling me what she was going to do for me as a part of the project. And as the conversation was breaking up, I said, "Thank you, ma'am," and walked away. 30 minutes later, I get the call. "Hey, can you come to my office a minute to see me?" Now, I'm not thinking anything's wrong. That's not the conclusion.
He should have said, "We need to talk." Then you would have.
But come to the office, and he's like, "You just have a conversation with so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Did you say thank you, ma'am?" And I was like, "Yeah." They said, "We don't do that here." It's like, "We don't do what?" "We don't say thank you?" It's like, "No, we don't use pronouns here."
Oh, goodness.
And I was like, "What?" Yes, because apparently the individual that I was speaking to identifies as something other than a ma'am, even though I concluded from seeing the tits out to here and the ass going pow that was a woman. I was in trouble. Yes, I said that.
Of course you did.
At the theater, we are no
How dare I
longer
come to
allowed
conclusion.
to say, like, guys, ladies, gentlemen. So, like, all of our announcements, we have taken out ladies and gentlemen. The show is about to begin. Like, all of those things have been cut. You can't walk into a room and go, "Hey, guys, we're getting ready to do this thing." So, because we're trying to be more inclusive, which we should be more inclusive, but at the same time, there are a lot of inherent things that people just say that you can't get offended at when
How many of us
saying that. So I've started to say, "Hey, friends."
Real
A
quick-
lot of my emails over the last couple of days have just been, "Hey, friends, we need to do this thing."
We need to talk.
Real quick,
We need to talk.
real quick poll here. How many people, including our viewers, if you guys would jump in on this one, how many people use guys as a gender neutral term? I do, all the time.
I have, but it is not a gender neutral term. It can't be a gender neutral term.
Yes,
Just
it can.
no.
Yes,
it
if
really
we all
can't.
agree it's gender neutral, it can, because that's how words work. Go ahead.
If a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man, how come guy can't be a gender neutral term?
Because some people feel that that is not an appropriate representation for
because
themselves.
they're
so you
fucked up.
can't. Yes, all of this is
Calm
about
down.
what they want. It's not about what you want or how you talk. Because you don't get offended by the words coming out of your mouth. Other people get offended by the words coming out
Well,
of
that
your
happens
mouth.
to me all the time.
But it's not illegal to be offended. I
Thank
mean, it's. I mean, I'm not. Chris, I adore you, and it's just a discussion we're having on the show here. But that's kind of where we are in a society. When I learned law, it always said, your right to freely swing your arm ends on the tip of my nose, right? When you contact me. Okay. So, can someone demand that I speak a certain way that seems against our Constitution? No, I mean, I know it's privatized and contracts are signed, so, we have to go to work and all that. But, I mean, that's just a curious that it just seems like a few people can not ruin the party, but, can.
Kev?
I yield to Kevin. He's excited.
Well, it's just that this ties into a quote by one of my favorite human beings in the whole world, which is Stephen Fry. And it's become a famous meme, and I've just called it up to make sure I quote him exactly. But he said, "It's now very common to hear people say, 'I'm rather offended by that,' as if that gives them certain rights. But it's no more than a whine. It has no meaning, it has no purpose, it has no reason to be respected as a phrase. I'm offended by that. Well, so fucking what?"
By the way, to back Chris up, Chris is talking about his company's policy, and I understand that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Chris,
Understood.
this is not a personal attack on you. I want to make that very clear, not only to you,
Yeah.
but
No,
to
it's
viewers
very
also.
clear.
Um,
I don't necessarily agree with all of the things, but like it is something that we should and be working on to be more inclusive
right.
in the current state of hate that is our country.
But in support of Chris, I'd like to say this. Why is it okay for those actors to gather at the bar and be completely against teamwork and obnoxious to someone on their team? But it's okay for people to put their feet on the stage, which is detrimental, is wrong, and may do physical damage to the stage, right?
For an actor. Ed?
But okay, not to harp on it too much, but I'm gonna harp on it some more. Because he used the term current state of hate. Okay, generally when I'm referring to somebody as you guys, hate is the furthest thing from my mind. I am being endearing to you. So
I don't disagree with you. And like the majority of the employees under me are female. It just happens to work out that the majority of the electricians that I hire are female. And very often I will walk into the room and go, "Hey guys, we're back from break," or "Hey guys, let's take a break." And I can no longer do that.
Yeah.
And it has never offended any of my electricians, but like, it's just something that can't happen.
Let me ask you. I'm sorry, finish up, Chris.
In our education center, they've gotten away from saying your parents are here. It has become your adult is here, because you cannot assume by someone's age or looks that they are your parent. That they are the child's parent.
Only for crossing the border.
Now, I have. I have.
Really?
Oh, sorry.
So that's where we are now.
Yeah, so that's and it's becoming more of a thing in Montgomery County schools, that they are no longer, teachers are no longer saying, "Hey, your parents are here to pick you up." It's your adult is here to pick you up. Because you can't assume if someone's mother or if it's their grandmother have come to pick them up.
That does sound creepier, doesn't it?
Now, I have another.
No, I understand. Oh, sorry.
No. I have another topic here related, a danger hot button, but I want you guys to finish up these thoughts. So, Elizabeth and Kevin, you look like you had something
Sure.
too. So, pass
I
to
have
Kevin.
to say about the guys. When I was out to dinner, I take my parents out. We go out to dinner. They're older generation, and the waiter would come up and say, "Hi, you guys." I'd always think, my mother's not a guy; she's a lady. It always rubbed me the wrong way. Generally, when I was with them, but so I can relate to that.
I think that has something to do with the generational thing with myself. Okay, saying yes, ma'am. That's a generational thing for me.
I agree.
You're never gonna break me of that. I would never walk up to people much older than me and say, "How are you guys?" Okay, because again, that's a generational thing to me. Say that to my peers, yes, but not someone that's older than me.
Kevin, did you have some thoughts from earlier?
Well, yeah, very quickly. I understand where people are coming from, but I think that people forget one really important thing, and that is that you can be critical about how, for example, the regulation of speech is applied without being critical of the subject that speech is related to. So, for example, in Chris's situation, if I were to be in that situation and someone said to me, "You can't say 'hey guys' anymore," and I go, "Well, this is fucking stupid," it's because I'm objecting to it on the grounds that it's not really applicable in that situation. Not that I don't think we should be respectful in terms of using or not using pronouns. People get way too confused that the two things are the same, and they're not. You can regulate something and say we need to improve how we react to this, but you can still be critical of where and how that should be applied. And people seem to think that if you criticize the system, you're criticizing the thing that system is in place to protect as well. Does that make sense?
I understand.
Like with Ed's comment, Ed's not coming from a point of, he's not stopping and considering, what pronoun shall I use to address this person when he uses the phrase yes ma'am. He's using it because he's instinctively respectful.
Not at all. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
When I said,
Ironically, you're probably trying to be respectful as a default,
Well, Ed, that person complained not because of your use of the word. That person complained because they wanted to complain about you, because you were not upset at whatever they said. You weren't bothered. So they had to find another way to bother you. That was their motivation, I would say. And a couple of things real quick from viewers. Jacob, hello. And
Where's
he says,
the bell?
Jacob
Hey, if you're gonna say you're gonna use it, you're gonna use it.
No, I had the floor. Jacob says he'd arrived. Hey, Jacob. He also says, not on topic, but I'd like to share that I finally made edits to my game document. Now it's finally on to mass content creation. Well done. Well done, man. Here's to that. Tempe says there's way too much drama in the drama department. As the adult of one of those kids, I can say that. I don't know if you can use kids, Tempe. That's a bit ageism and kind of not inclusive.
Yeah, that's ageist.
Now, are we good on this topic? Can I bring up the next one that's just a dumpster
Sure.
fire? Okay. In our modern society, it has been presented to us to ask people, what pronoun do you prefer? And I have done this multiple times in occasions where I felt it was appropriate. And I have had people get offended that I asked. Has anybody else experienced this?
No, because I don't ask.
I don't ask either.
Chris?
I don't know.
No, I usually get the "oh my god, thank you for asking."
I've had that also. But I've had some like look at me like,
usually
what?
the. I would say that is the type of people that I interact with on a
Fair.
majority basis. I interact with people that are non-conforming to gender binaries. I would say more than a general person walking down the street.
That's true.
It's something inherent to the theater community that happens. Also a lot of my friends are non-gender binary, so it's something that comes up often enough that people are, changing what they want their pronouns to be from when they were, a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not out of habit to either ask if something has changed, or I do not also get offended if I get corrected on a misused pronoun because they have changed without they didn't come up and say, "Hey, I've decided to change my pronouns," and I say he instead of she. Great, I will try and change that in my brain.
What, Kevin? And then I'm going to
I was
bring
just
us
say,
right back to the actual topic. Go ahead.
I don't ask what pronoun someone prefers to use, but if I use one and I'm corrected and someone says, no, I prefer, not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more than happy to use that, I'm a great believer in the fact that you should be allowed to identify your own self, because nobody knows the inside of your own brain apart from you. It's pointless anyone else trying to put a label on it. Yes, it's not offensive from my point of view anyway to not ask every single time. So ironically, I've had the opposite. I've had people, like you say, get offended at me on the odd occasion where I have felt it necessary to ask. Maybe I've been a bit uncertain. And I've had people be offended. What? Of course, I'm a man. You know,
Tempe,
it's
have a
almost
good
like you're
night.
challenging.
Sorry.
You know,
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah. It's
see, I think the scenario with what happened to Ed is particularly weird. If that's the case, and someone doesn't want you to use that pronoun, why did they not just turn round to you, even if it meant coming back 5 minutes later when no one else was around, for the sake of privacy, and just say, "Hey Ed, in future, would you mind calling me X, Y, Beta, whatever?" You know, why
Colonel.
make see? Yeah, Colonel. I like that. I self-identify as a colonel.
I identify as rich.
I
Ain't
have
nobody...
a friend who uses that as their identifier instead of Mr. or Miss. It's Colonel.
Strictly speaking, I bought my
Right
wife one
on.
of those ladyships. She owns a square foot of land, royal land in Scotland somewhere that entitles her legally in England to use the title Lady, so she could in fact be Lady Emily. I told her she should try upgrading her passport because we'd get bonus flight upgrades, but
Oh, nice.
not sure if they'd let her put it on a legal document.
I have been officially a king for 3 minutes, officially, so I could go by Your Majesty or Your Highness if I was so inclined. I have also had the official title of Duke through marriage. And yeah, it's I'm okay with whatever. So
I don't know. I like my liege. Sounds better.
then you'd have to be my serf, and when the surf is up, I run. It's so jumping to conclusions. Is it ever healthy?
Rarely.
I mean, if you
Yeah,
go
you
through
can't say
life to the point where you're my age, Ed's age, and you've just seen certain things enough times, you just recognize this fucking pattern. You kind of know where it's going 99% of the time. And you jump to this conclusion. I do it. Ed, do you ever done this?
I'm sure I have, and especially when you see the danger patterns that you just want to stay the fuck away from. In that case, it can be healthy.
Kev.
Yeah.
Go back to what you were saying earlier about jumping to a conclusion being an emotional, instinctive response. I think that's different to what you guys are talking about, because you're talking about making a judgment based on long-term experience.
Logic
It's
instead
not
of
a
emotion.
knee-jerk reaction. It's not emotional. You're using your experience of having seen that pattern again and again to identify that pattern, and that's not necessarily the same as jumping to a conclusion.
It'd be a
But I
logical
could
knee
be
jerk.
wrong.
I might be jumping to a conclusion.
John here says jumping to conclusions before you're robbed is somewhat important.
That's I was going to say something similar. Ed works in security. I've worked in security in one form or another in the past. Yeah, in that context, sometimes jumping to a conclusion can make the difference between someone not getting hurt and someone getting hurt. So yes, there are scenarios where it can definitely be to an advantage.
They're moving on my screen.
Kennedy says, I assumed Ed thought I was a racist the first time I texted. You texted Ed? Okay. Thank you guys for clarifying. John, I think it is just you that has everybody frozen. You might want to refresh the screen, bud. It's, yeah, I think in general, an emotional reaction, as we started with, thanks to Elizabeth there, it's probably best to think it through. But if you're jumping to a conclusion based on experience and logic, but I don't think you're going to react emotionally at that time. I think you're going to react cautiously and logically, and instead of accusations or action, you're actually going to favor inaction or removing yourself from a situation as the action instead of inciting it further. Oh, there you go. See, it was okay even when we couldn't see being a cunt. When we just all stop.
Stop.
I feel like my friends
In the name of the law?
In the name of love.
In the name of love? Is it hammer time?
It is.
I don't know.
Can't touch this.
How come if I want to be referred to as cunt, people take offense at that?
Because you're being a cunt,
I'm
Elizabeth.
sorry.
Duh.
I'd like to say one more quick thing about that, though. And this is, I love I do enjoy people. I love them, and I would like to make them feel better. I mean, if something. But this is what's interesting about this whole idea of people saying this is how they want to be referred to beyond their name. It does give them a momentary bit of control, right?
Power.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's quite demanding, and it is somewhat a control over the person across from them. And I think, life's hard, life's brutal on all of us. So, of course, if someone asked me to refer to them as this, I might do it. But how about focusing more on yourself and a little more on your own behavior or your own life and a little less on me, Why can't you respect me and allow me to be me? And that's how I don't know, it's just a thought.
I
was
think
thinking about the pronouns.
recognizing the intent behind the action is very important. Okay? So, for example, with what Ed did, let's go back to that. The intent was not to offend or upset. The intent was to end a potential hostile interaction and move on with respect. And offense was chosen to be taken at that point in time. Now, correcting him on the pronoun, absolutely, go ahead. Whether it's done through the boss because it's uncomfortable to go back to this person, Ed, this other person, I guess he is the person's chosen pronoun? Were you?
I'm assuming we never even got that far.
Oh, that was not revealed. I would just go with friends.
It could be they.
It could be.
It.
No. I had that discussion years ago
I
when this
suggest
first.
do not use cunt.
I was wondering if I could adopt that as my chosen pronoun.
It.
I did say to my boss, from now on, I'll just say, "What's up, fuckers?" And you go on back out to the guard shack now. So that's what I did.
I have so much trouble just remembering people's names.
Travis.
Now I gotta get pronouns. Oh.
Elizabeth, there's a question for you in chat. Kennedy would like to know if you identify as a pickle.
I am the pickle lady.
But notice the word lady afterwards. So she's a proper pickle.
Well, pickle cunt doesn't go.
It's funny you should say that. In my wallet, right next to "Stop Being a Cunt."
I actually have
See,
been.
we have to.
Go ahead, Chris.
We have to put our pronouns in our email signature, and every meeting that we start with with anyone outside of the department, like outside of the theater, if there's anyone in a meeting that is not full-time staff, we must go around the room and not only tell them our title, but also our preferred pronouns.
I have an idea.
Every time.
I have an idea, guys. I'm sorry, people. I have an idea. Because let's just do this. Let's all just go by they them from now on. Everybody, right here, right now, just all of us. We're just going to be they them, because I don't give a fuck what your genitals are, and I don't really care what mine is unless if I'm about to use them on somebody else. So let's just turn it into a completely gender neutral society of they them. And then when we want to judge people on their abilities, we could just be like, how much can you lift? Can you do that box or not? Because I don't care. We're all they, them now. Now just can you lift that or not? It feels like it's going that direction anyway. It's going to be hell writing a fucking romance novel. God damn it. They touched them.
Every
What?
scene, every I was gonna say every scene you write is gonna sound like an orgy. They touch
Or
their
that they're very fancy. Just
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, let's all
and start
just...
using the royal we.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's just all use the royal we. We and us. That's what they and them are.
You know.
We and us.
Do you know why the Queen doesn't wave with this hand? 'Cause it's mine.
It reminds me of the old joke.
Wow.
Oh, my atheists were offended by the goddamn it. The best part of that statement is Kennedy has his own atheists. Isn't that slavery and slightly frowned upon? It does make me wonder once I fix my cats if they are now gender neutral.
Yes.
In a way, they are. It's a commune. It's a commune. Yeah, I think Russia used that same philosophy there, Kennedy. Wow, can we just end it now? Let's move on. Woof. It's, they own the atheists. It's what they do. Yeah. I'll have to go to the atheist store and pick a few up. We should use comrade. Oh, that would be great. Chris, instead of friends, why don't you just use comrades?
Hello, comrades. It is time for lighting.
Getting close.
Anyhow, we got 5 minutes. Let's do a quote. Let's do the opening quote. Here we go. Quote number 4. I will dance like your personal entertainment monkey. Quoted from me.
Dance, monkey dance.
Woo. It is goddamn that Chinese curse of may you live in interesting times. Oh, Elizabeth, you're not familiar with it? Yeah, it is, I believe, Chinese proverb, a curse of sorts when you tell somebody, may you live in interesting times, as opposed to calm, relaxed, easygoing, life is good. If times are interesting, that means shit is being stirred, and we definitely live in interesting times. I don't know of any more.
Ain't that the fucking truth?
It's never not interesting.
That's what I was about to say, Elizabeth. I don't know. We're facing different things now, but they're not so different that they're new. And I love inclusiveness. I very much aim for inclusiveness. But when inclusiveness is so stringent and regulated that you are no longer included because it's so busy including everybody else that it excludes you, it's weird. And maybe it's a taste of our own medicine, and maybe that's okay. Ed, I see your forehead scrunching. Should I give you the floor, or should I just ignore you?
You may regret it. There are times, though, I see things being said and heard and done, and I don't feel like it's really inclusiveness. It's almost as if whatever the group may be wants to sit themselves apart to be recognized from everyone else. It's not really truly being inclusive.
Real quick. Gary, hello.
Hey!
Thank you for the bits, man. Working late. You are, man. This late. Oh, look at that. Thank you there, Jacob. Gifting over to Kennedy. Appreciate that. Up to 4 gift subs. And Kennedy says, just a personal note, that my defibrillator vest is no longer needed. So the week started well.
Cool.
I didn't know you could get a vest to those. I got to trick some people into putting one of those fuckers on. Here, put this on. Boom. So was that given to you like, the shock collar type situation where they were just like, that's a no. Now this is inclusiveness in a horrible, horrible way. It's, but it is, the tavern is known for it. Inclusive and horrible. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a hotbed of a topic. and totally didn't go where I thought.
Way off topic.
I don't know. I don't know. It's still within the jumping to conclusions. It's still within that. And now Elizabeth will play us out.
Kennedy says his
You
job
appear
is
to have jumped to a conclusion there, Travis.
What, Ed?
Kennedy
Not
says
yet.
his job is a new policy. Every time he says guys, he gets zapped.
That must be rough living in New York. Like every fucking Italian is like terrified of speaking at all. Okay, let's get some outro music and get the hell out of here. Have a great night, guys. We're out of here.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Tonight, you are the one thing that makes the show what it is. Don't forget to join us at the Tavern next week. Until then, have fun, keep learning, and be good to one
You
another.
ready to raise a glass?
Now, raise your glass
Raise your
in good
glass.
cheer. Enjoy the small moments every day.
Enjoy the small
and
moments.
see your dreams every night.
Oh, poor Ed. We're not including him in the fucking toast. I'm sorry, them. Going to hell. Don't tell the atheists, they'll get pissed.